Seasoned with Grace Unboxed presents Tune Up Tuesdays. This live weekly event is here to provide you and your family with tools for stronger family relationships. And now, here are your hosts, Doctors Robert and Denise Davis.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tune Up Tuesdays presented by Seasoned with Grace Unboxed. We hope you're ready for today's subject. We're going to jump into some new things, but we're also going to do some recapping of things that we've talked about, touch a little bit on guiding principles and some other concepts as well. Okay. Now, today's show, Denise, is going to be a little on the wonky side because we're actually going to be giving some definitions and talking through them as we set the foundation and the stage for our next series. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Can you please recap for us what we've been dealing with?
And quoting from Murray Bowens, Family Therapy and Clinical Practice, page 436, when any key member of a family can accurately observe what is going on in their family as well as the part they play in it, they can control their own emotional reactions, when they can avoid counterattacking when they're provoked, and when they can maintain an active relationship with the other key members of their family without withdrawing, emotionally checking out, or becoming silent, then the entire system will change in a series of predictable steps. This is the essence of producing change in your family system. This is the method of coaching one person through the predictable functioning of their family system and providing their efforts and supervising their efforts to modify their own functioning in all other relationships.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're seeking to do here at Tune Up Tuesdays is to help individuals and to coach individuals as they understand and as they move through the predictable steps that of their family functioning, and then to provide some supervision for them by means of tools and resources and exercises so that not only can they improve their family relationship functioning, but that they can improve their emotional health and their functioning in all other relationships that they are a part of.
Okay, so for the next few weeks, we are going to talk about changing the systems in a series of predictable steps.
We have been using a lot of terms to describe becoming more emotionally mature. And I remember the other day you were mentioning to me, you're like, a lot of the stuff that we're repeating over and over again. And that is correct. And one of the reasons why is because repetition deepens the impression.
I taught you that, by the way. Repetition deepens the impression. I'm not saying it's my original quote. I'm just saying I taught him that. Like, I've taught him quite a few things.
Okay, I could have swore I've heard that since I was a little child.
Nope.
But that's okay, because you know what? We were destined to be together. And so since I was a child, you have in some ways been a part of my life. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. I didn't hear it from you first, but I guess in some kind of philosophical way, I'll take it. So we're going to talk about the terms, if I'm allowed to get to that part. We're going to talk about the terms. We're going to talk about the terms.
Oh, you're on a roll today.
Yeah, we're both on a roll today. We're going to talk about the terms about emotional maturity and begin to go into some definition. Today we're going to tie some things together, and we're going to put some meat on what we've been discussing these past several months. Okay. There are three definitions that I want us to really look at. The first one that we're going to look at, that we've been talking a lot about, is family system, or family systems. The next one is emotional maturity. And the third one is emotional reactivity. What do some of these things mean? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a definition, and then I'm going to ask you to give me your thoughts on these various concepts. And maybe we'll even have a conversation about some of these concepts.
I wish you had prepared me for this.
No,
this, on the spot.
That's what I wanted. I wanted this to be right off the cuff. I intentionally did not tell you that this was going to be in there because I wanted it to be natural for you and not rehearsed. All right? So when we say family, first definition we're going to look at is family systems.
Okay.
Okay, what is family systems? People use that term, family systems. Okay, anyone who is a part of our immediate family of origin, whether we are in contact with them or not. So our family system is just any and everyone that is a part of our immediate family of origin, whether we are in contact with them or not. The second definition for family systems is anyone we are in relationship with. Anyone, and I'm going to put a little extra on that, anyone we're in regular relationship with. And so that means that our family could be church, It can be workplace, community organization, social clubs, and the list is pretty extensive. Anyone that we're in regular relationship with is a part of, we are a part of an emotional system. Another term that's used for family systems is an emotional system. So as you think about family systems.
So wait, you said family system and emotional system, they're
the same thing.
Okay. Interchangeable. Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of times when people think about family systems, of course, their mind automatically goes to biological.
Right.
And then within that, they say, well, you're talking about my family of origin, the family that I was raised in, or you're talking about my current family, which is my family of the family I'm raising, or family of procreation, or family of designation, or whatever.
Right.
So what we're talking about here when we say family systems is also interchangeable with emotional systems, which is anyone that we are in regular relationship with. So let me ask you a question. When you think about other family systems, which one would you say that you have the strongest connection with outside of your biological family? Let's unpack that a little bit.
Probably friendship systems. I have several overlapping friendship systems.
Okay. Tell about that a little bit more.
Well, I have the friends who I came in the church with.
Okay.
When I came in the church, the ones who I attached to. Then I have friendships that I've formed in schools. Then I have friendships among pastors' wives. And then some of those overlap. Like, for example, Nordia Eichner. That overlaps the pastor's wife friendships and the early teenage friendships.
Okay, and I noticed that with a lot of your friends, you refer to their moms as mom or as auntie or things of that nature.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how do you see the connection there as it relates to family systems?
Well, I think it's more of the West Indian type. We always have this close relationship. Whenever you're friends with someone, you become friends with their family, especially, when you come in the church. And I was just the only one on my mother's side of the family who was in the church, and not much of who on my father's side that I knew of. So I got grafted into my friends' families, and we became close. And I think it has a lot to do with being West Indian. That's what happens when you're in a close-knit community. There's really a gray area of who's really blood family and who's not. So even when I had my own children, when they were younger, they would ask, so is Auntie Nordia your sister, or is she is she my blood auntie, or is she like another type of auntie? And you have to explain, this is the type of relationship that you have. And so Auntie Nordia may not be blood related auntie, but she's your aunt.
Got you.
Does that answer your question?
It answers a lot, because it seems as if within the West Indian community, and it's also over here in America as well, that there is an understanding that, again, emotional systems or family systems goes beyond just our biological family to those who we are in relationship with.
And so her mother doesn't become, first name basis with me because I'm friends with her. It's more of family, and so she becomes an aunt.
Yeah. Okay.
Or mother, or however they're related to your friend is how they're related to you.
So anyone that we're in an emotional system with, whether it's biological or whether it is some extended form of family, whether it's workplace or whatever, that's what I mean by extended. One of the things that we want to do is we want to be emotionally mature. We've been using that term. And we gave a definition last week, but I want to unpack it a little bit more. Emotional maturity is being able to be active in a relationship while maintaining your own individuality. And some individuals, they go from one extreme to the other. And so it's kind of like a spectrum. One extreme is when I'm in relationship, then I act a particular way because I'm in this relationship.
I have become who that relationship is.
Exactly. Another extreme is I withdraw from relationships because when I'm in those relationships, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel myself.
Do you mean withdraw from other relationships to be a part of this relationship, or do you mean you withdraw from
So
that
when I'm in a relationship that I don't feel comfortable in, that I don't feel that I can be myself, that the person that I'm in relationship with, the persons that I'm in relationship with rub me the wrong way, so what I do is I cut off. I distance from them. So those are the two extremes, either losing yourself or either trying to distance yourself. An emotionally mature person
really individualized
can remain in contact and can remain themselves. My personality, character, and temperament are consistent. We're talking about emotional maturity. It means that my personality, my character, and temperament are consistent in all relationships and are consistent across all relationships. Okay. So I am the same person no matter what relationship that I may be in. Again, I don't distance myself away from relationships, and I don't, by the same token, I don't end up allowing the relationship to define who I am.
Right.
Yes. Emotional maturity, and this is the one that you gave us a couple of weeks ago. Emotional maturity is being responsible for your own emotions and reactions. That means that there's no blame game. Mm-hmm. There's no blame game.
Not trying to control other people's emotions.
Well, we'll get to that in a second, but this means that I am responsible. So when someone says, you made me angry, no, another person cannot make me angry. An emotionally mature person recognizes that I do have feelings that are a response to certain behaviors, but those are the feelings that I choose. And remember, we talked about this a little bit before, where we mentioned how one person, classic example, one person can call me a nut job, and it makes me laugh.
Right, that's true.
Someone else called me crazy, and then all of a sudden I'm upset, I'm stressed, I'm tense, etc. So the difference, it's the same words. The difference is me. So it's me that's choosing to it is me that is having the emotions. I am the one having these emotions in response to how the person spoke to me. It's not them. The
relationship of the person speaking to you.
Yeah. So it's not the person who's responsible for my emotions. I am responsible for regulating and controlling my own emotions.
Okay.
So I can't blame other people. And that's one of the things that you see with emotionally immature people is that they blame others for how they feel. Then the next part of emotional maturity that I want to talk about, and then I want you to kind of think about whatever jumps out at you. Emotional maturity is not allowing others, and this is where you were coming from a second ago, is not allowing others to control your emotions and not trying to control other people's emotions. So not allowing others to control my emotions and not allowing others to and not trying to control other people's emotions. So we threw a few more definitions in there relative to emotional maturity. Talk a little bit about what you think about it. I'll pull them up so you can look at it. Being able to be active in a relationship while maintaining your own individuality. Emotional maturity is being responsible for your own emotions and reactions, as well as not trying to control others and not allowing others to control you. Tell me what jumps out at you.
Well, the only thing that jumps out at me is that age does not dictate maturity. I think emotional maturity is dictated by being self-aware. That's what jumps out at me.
And one of the things that attracted me to you was the fact that you were focused. Was the fact that I believed and I perceived you to have a pretty well-defined self of who you were.
Oh, thank you.
And one of the things that I appreciate about you is that you are very consistent across relationships.
Oh, thank you.
I noticed that you have a very similar personality, character, and everything else with all of your friendships.
Which is what?
Huh?
Which is what?
That you're just a beautiful, sweet person no matter who you interact with. And,
be more concrete.
Yeah, but those are some of the things that jumped out at me. And we all know that we have areas.
Specifically what?
We know that we all have areas of growth, areas that we need to improve upon. But that's one of the things that really impressed me about you. The third thing I want to talk about is, the third definition I want to give you is emotional reactivity. And when we talk about emotional reactivity, we talk about reactivity a lot throughout this thing. Let me put some meat on that. Let me give some definition to that. Emotional reactivity is the mindless, automatic, instinctive behaviors that govern how we behave and respond in relationships. And the key word here is automatic and instinctive. In other words, emotional reactivity, which is what we're trying to get away from, is emotional reactivity. Emotional reactivity is the things that I do without thinking. We become healthier.
Trying to get away from the negative emotional reactivity.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, emotional reactivity, period. Because some of the things, and I'm glad that you said that about negative. Emotional reactivity, period. When we talk about emotion, we're talking about the automatic and instinctive. And so there are certain survival techniques that we use.
Right.
So in order to survive in a relationship, it may be our automatic response to just compromise or to give in. Someone sitting on the outside looking in would say about that, oh, this is a wonderful person. They really know how to compromise. They really know how to go ahead and sacrifice for the good of the larger body.
Right. Okay.
The challenge is this individual very well may not be functioning at a healthy level because they're not doing it for the good of the body. They're not, or for the good of the larger group.
Relationship, right.
They're not doing it because they genuinely believe in this, that, and the other. It is an automatic response that is, in many ways, self-preservation.
Could be flight.
It could be fight or flight. Yeah, it could be that could be their flight mechanism. And so one of the things that we want to come to is to understand how I respond, and then to develop how I would like to respond.
Okay.
So that's what we mean by emotional reactivity. Talk a little bit, because it seems like you have some thoughts on that.
No, I just still don't see where you can't have positive emotional reactivity. If you're going to say, okay, I need to identify how I respond to situations or conflict or whatever, and then, intentionally try to change that reaction, I'm still reacting. I'm still going to react.
All right, unpack that a little bit more, because I may be a little confused.
Okay, so in the example, and this is off the top of my head, so bear with me. So in the example that we just discussed, let's say someone's in a marriage, and the instinctual reaction of the husband is to compromise, to give in, to say, okay. And it's not necessarily for the greater good of the relationship or to come to a mutual understanding of anything, but that's his way of shutting down. Let's use that example.
Wonderful.
Well, then when he becomes more mature and he starts, saying to himself, that's not a good way to react to conflict, what I will do is let my wife know, you know what, right now I'm not sure how I feel. So give me about 30 minutes and let's come back and we'll talk about whatever the issue is. When he develops the habit of being able to accurately observe what's going on and say, you know what, I'd like to come back. This is how I'd like to react to the conflict. This is how I'd like to handle it and try to see if this works. To me, that's turning a negative to a positive.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say, and it seems as if you and I have been thinking along the same lines, and I'm glad you elaborated on that and clarified. Because one of the things that I was thinking about, and I don't have any documentation to back this up, but this has been in my thoughts, and that is one of the places that we want to get to is where our automatic and instinctive behaviors become automatic and instinctive behaviors that we have thought through, that we have developed, and have become so much a part of us that they then become, they almost become emotional muscle memory.
Okay.
For lack of a better, that's a good term right there. Somebody write that down. Emotional muscle memory. Yeah. Emotional muscle memory. That and so that's but it's something that I've actually, it's a guiding principle, core principles, values that are part of my life that I have worked on and implemented and practiced so much so that it becomes natural. It becomes natural for me. So when we talk about emotional reactivity, that's
so you're no longer getting hot under the collar and your blood is boiling, but you're able to say, okay.
Yes.
You're able to listen more. Okay.
Now here's the rub, Denise. Because of our family system, we have been pre-programmed from birth to have a certain level of emotional maturity and to have a certain types of emotional reactions from birth. We can attribute it to community. We can attribute it to culture. All of these things have something. All these things put their little piece in on it. Community, culture, education, society, biological family, immediate family, extended family, or a myriad of other factors. The truth of the matter is, no matter how it got there, our emotional computer is pre-programmed.
I'm glad you said that. Actually, when you said that about how it's programmed from birth, I think about how intentional we are in developing emotionally mature children. And I remember, I think it was Friday night. We usually, have these little meetings on Friday nights. And we were telling our daughter about never being sorry about being uncomfortable. Remember that when she was telling us about, I guess it was a school dad was having a conversation with her. And I think he kind of like touched her on the shoulder or whatever, but she was uncomfortable. Whether he did something wrong or not, she was uncomfortable. And so, she told us how she reacted, and she wasn't trying to be disrespectful. And, another student made a comment to her, and she was apologizing. And I said, you don't have to be sorry for being uncomfortable. And you don't have to make excuses for why you're uncomfortable. And you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to be sorry for being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I am uncomfortable when you do this. You don't have to be rude.
Yeah, when you touch, when a man that I don't know touches me or that I'm not familiar with touches me, that makes me feel uncomfortable. And that is fine. And it is okay to have that. And it wasn't on her shoulder. She was sitting up against the wall and he patted her on the knee. Was what happened. And she has every right to feel uncomfortable because, and I've had to learn certain boundaries the hard way, but you shouldn't go around touching women on the knees and on the back, and don't comment about women's hair.
Are you serious? See, I've taught him a lot.
Don't comment about women's hair, weight, don't ask if they're pregnant. Well, I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff that I've learned over the last 40 plus years, I'll tell you that
17
much.
17 years. 20 years.
Okay, well, some of the things I knew going into this thing, but that's okay. There's some of the things that I do going into this.
They're pregnant. Okay.
But the point of the matter is that our emotional computer has been pre-programmed.
Okay. So our goals are to 1, reprogram our emotional computer, 2, operate in a productive way within our family system, and 3, improve how we manage ourselves in all relationships.
So, reprogram
our emotional computer. What else did we say? Operate in a productive way within that family system, and then improve how we manage ourselves in all of the relationships. Start with the family and let it spread.
So the first step is to be intentional about reprogramming the computer. Identifying and becoming intentional about reprogramming.
Like a taxonomy. First you identify, then you practice, then you generalize.
Man. Brilliant. Brilliant. Go ahead.
Okay, so for the past several months, we've been trying to help you understand how your computer is programmed. We have also explored healthy ways to function in relationships. Now we want to give you strengths and strategies, and techniques to help you understand how your emotional computer has been programmed. We also want to help you reprogram your emotional computer. He's rubbing off on me, by the way. I would never be braggadocious like, oh, I made a term. I came up with something.
So then...
That's not me. I don't do that. Which means that I need to go back to the drawing board and define a self, right?
Yes. Yes. So in other words, you have not defined a self well because you are operating one way in this relationship when you shouldn't operate. Yeah. So before we conclude today, let me just share a couple other things. Season with Grace Unboxed has started a podcast co-hosted by my business partner and one of my closest friends in the world, Raphael Soriano. What the purpose of this podcast is, which is called Workplace Wednesdays, the purpose of this podcast is to help human resource directors, CEOs, training and organizational development directors, and other leaders who manage workplace relationships. And we've already put out our first podcast. The second one's coming out tomorrow. Go to www.swg-unbox.org. It's right here.
Yeah,
or
last week you were doing it, right?
Yeah, last week I was all of you. It's actually just right here. Or go to Podomatic and check out Workplace Wednesdays. Every first and third Wednesday we have this. And we're going to be bringing in people from different industries, especially after COVID-19 subsides, and really want to take these principles but show how they can be implemented within the workplace. So we want to encourage you to go ahead and to check that out.
Okay. So the good news is that we're done. This was quite lengthy. Another good news is that we don't have any homework this week, but I do want to encourage you to continue journaling. I want you to also stay safe during this difficult times. It's not over yet, so hopefully I hope things will return to normal very soon. So please follow local and federal directives. Wash your hands, disinfect your surroundings, use hand sanitizer. As a matter of fact, I smelled bleach on his hands, so I was a little bit distracted during this video recording. But anyway, use proper sanitary practices. And if you do feel sick, seek professional medical help. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Tune-Up Tuesdays, because even the smoothest running family needs a Tune-Up Tuesday. See you next week.
See you next week.
Seasoned with Grace Unboxed also provides healthy relationship training and leadership development for businesses, churches, and community organizations. For a free consultation to discuss your team's needs, please contact us at our website at swg-unboxed.org. That's swg-unboxed.org.